Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life.
14 years in federal prison
Yeah.
for a Grammy-winning hip-hop star. That is the headline we're really wrestling with today.
It's a staggering one.
It is. We're talking about the incredibly complex sentencing of Pras Michel, who, was a founding member of the Fugees.
And this deep dive is so necessary because, look, this isn't just another celebrity scandal. Not at all.
No.
This is a wild convergence of international money laundering, high-stakes political influence, and, frankly, one of the most brazen foreign lobbying schemes our sources have ever documented.
Exactly. You sent over a huge stack of material covering this whole timeline, and our mission today is to, cut through the legalese, the gossip, and just understand the true scale of this.
The crime, the money involved.
And what this whole verdict really tells us about political access today.
So let's start with the foundation. The conviction itself was back in April 2023.
Right.
Michel was found guilty on 10 counts. The really critical ones were conspiracy and acting as an unregistered agent of a foreign government. The whole scheme was built around illegal foreign money being funneled into former President Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign.
And that foreign element is key. That's what takes this from just, say, a campaign finance violation to something so much more serious.
Absolutely. It's not just domestic fraud.
So let's talk about the money. The numbers here are just astonishing. Who was the source? And how much was Michel actually dealing with?
The cash trail leads directly back to a Malaysian financier, low-tech Jho Low.
Universally known as Jho Low.
Jho Low, exactly. And Michel was obtaining and distributing these vast sums of money from him.
And what do we mean by vast?
Our sources indicate the total amount that changed hands was over $120 million.
Over $120 million. That's a number that doesn't even sound real when you tie it to a single influence scheme.
No, it doesn't.
So how did he do it? How do you inject that much foreign money into the U.S. political system without it getting immediately flagged?
He used what the courts call straw donors.
Straw donors.
Essentially, instead of Jho writing these massive illegal checks himself, which, would be an instant red flag.
Right, foreign money here.
Exactly. Michel recruited a bunch of individuals, the straw donors, to make contributions in their own names.
And then he'd pay them back?
He'd reimburse them, often handsomely, using Low's money. It completely disguised where the funds were actually coming from. It made foreign money look domestic.
So it's an elaborate shell game. It's designed for total opacity.
Precisely.
And we should give some context here. For anyone hearing the name Pras Michel and just sort of vaguely recognizing it, he's a cultural giant.
Oh, absolutely.
A Brooklyn native, co-founder of the Fugees. This is the group that gave us the score, won 2 Grammys, with Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean.
Right.
So this wasn't some nobody trying to get in the door. This was a well-known figure leveraging his entire network.
Exactly. And that brings us to the part that is, frankly, the most cynical revelation of the entire case.
The motivation.
The motivation behind this $120 million scheme.
Right. Because if you're risking all of this, campaign finance violations, acting as a foreign agent, conspiracy, you assume the goal has to be tectonic.
Something huge.
Like changing U.S. policy on trade with Malaysia or, stopping an extradition.
That's the logical assumption, yeah. But the court filings, they reveal something far more trivial and kind of depressing, really.
What was it?
Michel's own attorneys detailed that Jho Low's primary goal was not a policy objective. His grand scheme was just to get a photograph of himself with then-President Obama.
$120 million photo op.
That's what it comes down to.
Wow.
Yeah.
That right there is the ultimate takeaway for anyone trying to understand global influence. The crime is monumental. The risk is more than a decade in prison.
And the stated goal is just symbolic.
Like appearance of access. It just shows you how much that symbolism, that proximity to power, matters to certain global elites.
It really does. It highlights that the currency of influence isn't always a policy outcome. So often it's just about ego and, status confirmation.
And this wasn't just about political funding either, was it? This was part of a much bigger play by Jho Low.
A much bigger, sweeping attempt to buy legitimacy on a global stage.
And the breadth of that attempt. It became so obvious during the trial itself. It was held in Washington, D.C., but it pulled in people from the absolute highest echelons of, both U.S. politics and Hollywood.
Yeah, the witness list was incredible.
Who were the big ones?
The jury heard testimony from actor Leonardo DiCaprio.
DiCaprio, wow.
Which provided the Hollywood flash, and then from former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who brought the political weight.
The DiCaprio connection is so crucial because that ties Jho Low directly back to the source of his cultural influence.
Yes.
He wasn't just some financier trying to buy his way into politics. He was at the same time funding huge cultural projects. He was one of the main backers of the movie The Wolf of Wall Street.
Which, of course, starred DiCaprio.
It all connects. He was spending money everywhere to build this image.
Low understood that political access and cultural cachet, they operate on a parallel track. By embedding himself in Hollywood, he created this illusion of legitimacy and wealth that made his political moves seem more credible.
That dual track makes him such a fascinating villain in all this. And we have to stress, while Pras Michel has been convicted and sentenced, Jho Low, the architect and financier, the whole thing, he remains a fugitive from justice, though he has, consistently maintained his innocence.
That's right. So let's pivot to the sentencing phase, because this is where the legal system tried to quantify just how severe these actions were.
And the final 14-year sentence is severe, no doubt. But the prosecution was pushing for something, well, exponentially higher.
They were recommending a life sentence.
A life sentence.
Right.
That requires a huge shift in how the government viewed his actions, right? Moving beyond just illegal donations.
Absolutely.
What were the aggravating factors that the prosecution used to justify that kind of recommendation?
They successfully argued to the court that Michel's crimes kept going long after the initial scheme. They accused him of multiple counts of obstruction.
So, trying to interfere with the investigation.
Specifically, trying to end a Justice Department investigation into Jho Low. And crucially, they also accused him of tampering with 2 witnesses and perjuring himself, lying under oath at trial.
Okay, so the core problem shifts. It's no longer just a financial crime. It becomes a direct attack on the integrity of the U.S. legal system and, I guess, national security.
That's the key.
Can you just briefly explain why that charge, acting as an unregistered agent of a foreign government, carries such a massive penalty?
Absolutely. A campaign finance violation is serious, but it's typically treated as a type of fraud. The unregistered foreign agent charge, though, that elevates the crime to a national security threat.
I see.
It means you are secretly working on behalf of a foreign power to influence U.S. policy or access, and by not registering, you're hiding that influence from the American public and the government.
So it's the secrecy, the deception.
It's that violation of trust, especially in those high-level political circles, that triggers the life sentence recommendation in the federal guidelines.
That context explains the prosecution's rhetoric, which was scorched earth.
It was.
They argued Michel betrayed his country for money and lied unapologetically and unrelentingly. They wanted a sentence reflecting the breadth and depth of his crimes and the magnitude of his greed.
They were trying to make an example of him.
A huge example.
Yeah.
And that was their maximalist position. What about the defense?
The defense, led by Peter Zionberg, they offered the complete opposite extreme. They recommended just 3 years.
3 years versus life.
Right, arguing that the true crime was far less serious than all the compounding factors the government threw in.
And they fought that final 14-year sentence very aggressively, calling it completely disproportionate.
Oh, yes. Their rhetoric was designed to shock the court back toward, some semblance of proportion. They argued that a life sentence, as derived from the guidelines, was an absurdly high punishment.
The kind of thing reserved for
deadly terrorists and drug cartel leaders, that's their quote. That comparison is a direct challenge to the Justice Department's entire characterization of Michel.
And they solidified that argument with this powerful literary illusion.
They did.
They argued the government's position was so relentless in seeking punishment that it would cause Inspector Javert to recoil.
That reference from Les Miserables, citing the famously obsessive, unforgiving police inspector, it was highly strategic.
What was the message?
The defense was essentially arguing that the government's pursuit of extreme retribution had crossed the line from justice into obsessive persecution.
So the legal debate became about philosophy and rhetoric, not just the facts on the ground.
It did.
In the end, Michel, who was 52, he got the 14-year sentence. He declined to address the court before Judge Colleen Colcotelli delivered it.
And of course, the defense immediately confirmed he will appeal, both the conviction and the sentence. This whole saga is far from over.
And that appeal. That's what leads us to what is maybe the most unusual and, frankly, modern detail of this entire story.
It's something that speaks volumes about the current state of legal technology and, well, innovation.
You are talking about the use of generative AI in the legal process.
Exactly. So, After his conviction, Michel's defense requested a new trial. The judge rejected this request in August 2024.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. One of the specific grounds the defense attorney cited for requesting this new trial was his own admitted use of a generative AI program while he was creating the closing arguments.
That is absolutely astonishing. So the defense was arguing that because they used a nascent AI tool, it potentially compromised their own defense.
That's the essence of it.
So they wanted a do-over.
They were basically arguing that, look, we relied on this AI tool and maybe it compromised the arguments, maybe they were inaccurate, or it led to a misunderstanding of the case. They tried to claim that this, along with other alleged errors, amounted to a serious miscarriage of justice.
It speaks to, I don't know, either desperation or just the rapid, uncritical adoption of new tech in these incredibly high-stakes situations.
It has to be one of the earliest high-profile examples of AI use becoming a literal part of a post-conviction legal challenge.
It's historic.
It is. The judge, however, she was very clear. She ruled that the defense's claimed errors in courting the AI usage did not reach the high bar required to prove a serious miscarriage of justice.
So it didn't work.
No. But the filing itself has put a marker down. AI is now formally on the legal landscape, even if its early use has led to a failed appeal.
When you just zoom out on all of this, the entire case is this perfect microcosm of how high-level corruption works today.
It really is.
You have massive foreign influence operations colliding with celebrity culture, with political funding rules, and now even with cutting-edge technology.
And we are left with that profound contrast you mentioned earlier.
The $120 million for a photograph.
Exactly. The conviction shows the Justice Department is taking this unregistered foreign agent charge extremely seriously. They're using these severe sentencing guidelines to push back against the idea that wealth and celebrity can insulate you from consequences.
Especially when you combine it with obstruction and perjury.
Especially then.
So we have to ask ourselves, what does this case truly tell us when you consider the defense's extreme rhetoric about the sentence, comparing it to what deadly terrorists get, and then that specific failed attempt to use AI as a basis for an appeal? What is this case signaling about how our legal standards are evolving when they have to deal with these sprawling, complex financial and political crimes?
And, to expand that thought, you have to consider the long-term implications of that failed AI defense. The motion was rejected here, sure. But this event validates that attorneys are already using generative AI in high-stakes court preparation. So the question isn't if AI will challenge standard court procedures anymore. It's when a defense lawyer successfully uses it in a way that truly establishes new precedents for what constitutes acceptable legal preparation. That future is arriving much faster than I think most courts are ready for.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for the next episode on While We Were Distracted.